Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege of interviewing and highlighting some truly interesting people. Everyone who is anyone, both the famous and the infamous, from presidents and their first ladies to kings and queens, movie stars and pop stars, captains of industry, heads of state, sports personalities, innovative entrepreneurs, and some pretty fascinating everyday people. Today, I'm proud to introduce you to Dr. Klaus Romero, who sees medicine as a great vector through which to solve problems. And throughout the course of Dr. Romero's career, he was actually instrumental in developing a mathematical model which epidemiologists were able to use to tackle some of our most troublesome diseases. Dr. Romero, may I tell you that I've been so looking forward to this conversation. Let's start off by going over your career in broad strokes. Can you walk us through your career path and how you came to be involved in both medicine and data science?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. That's a great question that I get quite a bit, actually. When I started my journey in life, I developed a very early interest in science and medicine that led me eventually to medical school, where I really fell in love with the discipline of clinical pharmacology. And I ended up training in postgraduate in the postgraduate system through clinical pharmacology, and that really led me to develop an appreciation for the importance of understanding how drugs need to move through the body to reach the targets to treat diseases, and how the mathematics is a very powerful tool to understand how that happens. Then I discovered epidemiology as a field that can allow you to understand how diseases move through populations, and how mathematics also helps with that understanding. And I saw a lot of similarities with the background methods, with the mathematics and the statistics of both fields to answer seemingly different questions. But when I put them together, that's what really led me into this whole field of data science, because you need a lot of data to be able to understand how a disease behaves in a population, and how to understand mathematically how you could intervene with different treatments to impact possibly those diseases, and how to expedite the development and the evaluation of the efficacy and safety of new treatments for those diseases.
And how do you exactly see the areas of medicine and data science intersecting?
That's another great question. Let me walk you through an analogy. Back in the 30s, the dawn of commercial aviation, pilots back then were expected to have the entire plane in their heads. And that worked, right? Because things were simple, everything was mechanic. And a pilot could have and understand the entire plane in their own individual brain. And that was great. You can't really do that with modern aviation today. The planes have so many systems and so much complexity that it is literally impossible for a single human brain to have everything in one place and just understand the flow of every single data point in real time to inform decision making. And so pilots are able to fly planes today because engineering has invested and science has invested the time in developing those systems that allow the data from the plane to be extracted and turned into knowledge that the pilots see real time to inform decision making. It's the same thing with medicine. Back in the 50s, medicine was quite simple. And you could expect a physician to have the entire patient in their head. That really doesn't happen today. It cannot happen today with all the complexities and the subspecialties that are part of medicine today. So you merge data science with medicine, that allows you to then create the tools that will help inform decision making for physicians and other types of scientists to impact decision making at the individual patient level, but also at the population level.
Gathering data is one thing, but it's an entirely another matter to turn that data points or those data points into actionable knowledge. And that's really where I like to call your secret sauce comes in. How is that done in your line of work?
Yeah, that's another great question, Star. So the way to transform data into actionable knowledge needs to take into account the fact that the name of the game in reality is being able to identify, quantify, and handle the sources of variability. And the only way you can do that is by combining different types of data. Data from trials that evaluate the efficacy and safety of new drugs or new medical products, studies that look at how populations behave with certain diseases and how the diseases affect those populations, patient registries that allow the patients to communicate their journey with through life with a particular disease, but also the types of data that you need from electronic health records to tell you what happens in actuality in the trenches. The combination of those data is what really allows, in a way that you can extract information from those data, is what allows you to turn data, simple data, and tons of data into actionable solutions that solve very specific problems in both healthcare and medical product development.
Dr. Romero, I've heard these phrases a number of times: big data, I've heard smart data. There's a distinction between those two things. Can you speak to that difference for our audience?
No, absolutely. So big data has become kind of a buzzword in recent times, and it relates to the size of the data. And that's great. And we live in an era where tons and tons of data are generated every second from a multitude of sources. But then you run the risk of just getting lost in that amount of data. So if you really want to understand sources of variability, if you have that as a defined goal, then you have a compass that allows you to extract the meaningful pieces of information from that big universe of variables into a subset of variables that are the most important ones to look at. And that's when you have transformed big data into smart data. And having smart data is actually the foundation to be able to build those tools that transform data into actionable knowledge, back to the analogy of the pilots.
So what can you tell us about literally some of the initiatives that you've worked on with Critical Path Institute? Because that's real life work that I think people can relate to.
Sure, absolutely. So the journey started with Alzheimer's disease, and we had a challenge back in 2009 when we started that effort of being able to integrate data from multiple pharmaceutical companies and other sources as well. That hadn't really been done before then. Fast forward to today, now we have the trust and the capabilities and the pipeline to integrate data from the pharmaceutical industry, because we're that neutral broker that really protects everyone, protects the privacy of the patients, protects the commercial interest of the companies, but doing so in a way that the sharing of information is in the interest of the public good, to expedite the process and level set things for everyone. And companies can keep competing on the innovation of their products, but the process to evaluate the efficacy and safety of those products is expedited through the solutions that we generated. Alzheimer's was the first example. Then came tuberculosis, polycystic kidney disease, which is an orphan status indication. And the common denominator is that essentially the medical product development process and paradigm for those diseases was transformed through the work that we did. Our work contributed to the first approval of the first new drug in 50 years for tuberculosis, and the approval of the first ever product to be approved by the FDA to slow down the progression of polycystic kidney disease. And that is happening now across more than 16 indications. So it's very exciting to see that vision becoming real.
That's amazing. Where do you see the future of the intersection between medicine and data science, particularly with regard to the role of supporting that clinical decision making that you were articulating just a minute ago?
Yes, that's another great question. The rise of artificial intelligence and the entire scientific community getting a better understanding of what is the added value that artificial intelligence brings to the table. Just as with other solutions that have risen to the top in the past, only to be then distilled down to their actual true value, the same thing happens with these solutions. There will be, and we're approaching the time when we will exactly gauge the value that artificial intelligence brings to the table, combined with other traditional approaches that came in the past with statistics and mathematics. That's one thing. The other thing is the advent of what some people call digital health technologies. Other people call that remote monitoring technologies. So it's that whole notion of using technology to help understand what is the true journey of humans living with diseases, and minimizing the need for humans to have to travel to a hospital setting or a clinical setting to be viewed, examined, and then have a decision made about their care. The more that gets minimized and optimized through these telemetric type technologies, that's going to accelerate not only individual decision making for the individual care of a patient, but also will help expedite the process to evaluate the efficacy and safety of new medical products.
You know, Dr. Romero, this is very interesting to me. I'm the national volunteer for the American Heart Association, and during our, as we like to call it, our Super Bowl of science and clinicians coming together, we talk all the time about how new advances in technology will really and truly impact on how heart disease is detected, how it is ultimately treated, and how we move forward with data science. And so I know from personal experience as an actual heart disease survivor, how things have changed just in the 11 years since my open heart surgery. It is moving constantly. I think I'd be remiss, since I have you here, and this is your area of expertise, if I didn't ask you about this intersection of the pandemic response and data science. You know, as we get the vaccine available, more people have taken it. Hopefully more and more people will take it. Having proof of vaccinations is going to be absolutely imperative. What role do you think data science will play in that?
Oh, and not only will it play a role, it has played a major role. The fact that the world was able to develop efficacious and safe vaccines in the amount of time those were developed is a testament to the power of not only data science, but a true collaborative environment, an ecosystem that has been created. The fact that the genome of the virus was shared so quickly, and that it was put out there for everyone to use to develop tests and to start developing vaccines and drugs, that's a new paradigm. And the learnings from the past year or so of the terrible toll of the pandemic that it has seen, it will also provide invaluable learnings for how to change paradigms for other therapeutic areas and the development of medical products for those areas.
I could listen to you all day because I'm a bit of a nerd and this is not my area of expertise. And I feel like I'm going to school right now. And, you know, continuous learning is absolutely imperative for our society. So what is the one thing, Dr. Romero, that you'd like the viewer of this video feature to walk away with today?
Yeah, thank you for that last question. I think the appreciation for the power of, in the modern world, to strive to inform decision-making through the proper understanding of the value of data. And instilling that with the much needed aspects of relearning critical thinking and merging the two together to continue to learn to ask the right questions. The intersection of data science with daily life and with medicine will provide a lot of very meaningful answers, but that's not where the money is. The money is in understanding how to phrase questions the right way. In other words, asking the right question will guide you in getting the answer.
Well, you know what that old quote is, data will talk if you are willing to listen. And so thank you so very much, Dr. Romero, for giving us a lesson in listening to the data and how it can truly impact on our lives when medicine and big data and smart data actually intersect. Thank you, sir.
Oh, thank you.